Making babies should be one of the greatest joys of life. But for so many who want to be parents, it's the opposite. Despite a deep longing, the body isn't always willing. Science tries to help, but even then, there are no guarantees. And when bureaucracy complicates the formula, the outcome is often heartbreak. Quite unbelievably, in the last few years in Australia, it's actually become tougher for people struggling to start a family. So why can't we make the path to parenthood easier? Sticky tape and a homemade flyer might be an unorthodox way of trying to grow your family.
Help. Seeking egg donor.
On posters plastered across suburban Sydney, Emma, as she wants us to call her, is spelling out her desperate search for an egg donor.
Would you consider doing a round of IVF for me and donating your eggs? My eggs are no good and I desperately want a baby. What an incredible gift. Thank you for reading my note.
These posters are a last resort for you?
The posters are definitely a last resort. On a very low day, I just decided that I had no other choice but to type up a little flyer and go and stick it on some trees, hoping that someone would just read one and connect with it and maybe just feel like being an angel.
Emma has unwittingly become the poster girl for fertility struggles in Australia. It's an unspoken battle so many women here face, and while you'd think scientific advances would make the path to parenthood easier, that doesn't seem to be the case.
The options here are very limited. It's not okay. You know, this is the 21st century. We need to sort this out. Jingle, jingle.
Even though Emma is already a mum of one, her family doesn't yet feel complete. After a long and challenging battle with IVF, she'd finally fallen pregnant. But shortly after her son's birth, Emma's relationship with his father broke down, leaving her facing her biggest nightmare. So your primary objective here is to ensure that your son isn't an only child?
Yeah, that's right, because I'm an only child, and I think as you get older, you really miss not having a sibling. I just never wanted my future child to be alone, and I was grieving so badly for him. So my need to try and sort that out for him is really urgent because I'm running out of time.
Emma thought she had a future-proof plan to grow her family. While undergoing IVF and aware of her diminishing egg count, she had healthy embryos frozen and stored overseas. But as it turned out, that decision has now caused her more pain.
We still have embryos, but now that I'm no longer with my partner, I'm not able to use them. It's a bit of a minefield. And so I actually just really don't like thinking about those little babies on ice because I can't use them. And so, you know, I've had to be creative and come up with something else, which ended up being seeking an egg donor by putting notes on poles.
Now in her 40s, Emma was left with little choice. But she wishes she didn't need to resort to IVF in the first place and wants other women to be more aware of their own fertility.
I didn't know that my clock was running down. I thought, you know, I live a healthy lifestyle, I don't drink, you know, I do yoga and I'm still fine. But then you start to look into it and you start to try to have a child and you're like, whoa, and you're like, how did this happen? How did I not know this?
You've been through an IVF journey yourself, so you know just how complicated the process can be.
Yeah, look, it's heartbreaking every month when you get the negative pregnancy test. And people think that IVF is the solution, but it is not. IVF is a last-ditch attempt. What people should have done is freeze their eggs.
That can seem like an appealing solution, but it's not always straightforward.
I always gave myself the age of 35 where I was like, look, if I haven't had kids by then, I'd really look into considering freezing my eggs. I am now quickly approaching that. And yeah, I just decided to really focus on my career at this point in time.
Help Auntie.
I know, because Auntie's kind of struggling.
Chanel Pountney loves being a doting auntie to young Scarlett and Aidan.
There we go.
And one day, this 34-year-old insurance worker hopes to have kids of her own.
Okay, now Auntie can pop that in the oven now and we're good to go.
You don't feel ready for children right now?
Not right now, no. And that's why this is basically my insurance policy for my future, really. So I'm protecting myself and giving myself a plan B.
You work in insurance. Is this your ultimate insurance policy?
Yes, it is. I evaluate risk every day, yes. So, yeah, no, look, I've looked at the pros and cons from this. So, yeah, I've basically done my job for my life. So, yeah.
Hi, Chantel, please take a seat.
Thank you.
While it's no guarantee this will enable her to become a mum, Chantel decided it was her best option. After almost 2 months of counselling and hormone enhancements, she had her eggs collected at Monash IVF 4 weeks ago.
Injecting and everything like that was quite new. I've never done anything like that before.
In her first round, 7 eggs were extracted, but only 3 were viable.
From 3 frozen eggs at 34 years of age, we press the button and we find that gives us a chance of 19 to 22% chance of a take-home baby. So we're by no means on a sure thing just yet.
Yeah.
To increase those odds, fertility specialist Dr. Philip Thomas recommends she undergo another round of collection soon.
And we do know that after 37, egg quality and ovarian reserve start to decrease more rapidly.
Which means spending much more money. And unless there's an underlying medical condition, there are currently no government subsidies in Australia.
All up, it was, I believe I was out at about $11,500.
Really?
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Do you think that egg freezing should be subsidised?
Yeah, definitely. I know that, yes, you have to have $11,500 up front. Like, that's a lot of money for someone.
And there can be other prohibitive factors for hopeful parents in Australia too. For some, it may not be a race against time.
It's been challenging. It's been hard.
It may be as basic and heartbreaking as their eggs just not being viable.
Setbacks after setbacks after setbacks.
But that's not the only problem desperate couples like this may face.
It was a long journey and it just felt like we were never going to quite make the finish line, but you just got to keep fighting. That's so cute.
Tara and Luke Casper are counting down the days until they finally become parents. But getting to this point has not been without its heartache. Unable to fall pregnant naturally, Tara turned to IVF aged just 24. But that didn't work either. Over the next 5 years, the young Darwin couple endured 28 failed embryo transfers and 3 miscarriages.
I really didn't know how to feel. I was lost, I was hurt. I was broken sometimes, but I'd have to get up the next day and go back to work like nothing, yeah. And it's hard.
It's something that no one wants to go through.
No, definitely not. It is tough. And I'm not the most emotional person, but yeah, I definitely felt it. And I still do,
After spending more than $100,000 in tests and treatments, Tara and Luke were still no closer to their dream of parenthood. Have doctors been able to tell you why you've not been able to carry to full term?
They don't actually know why. which is hard.
It means you can't really have any closure, right, as well?
Well, that's probably why I kept trying for so many times, because I felt like there was still a chance that I could fall pregnant and carry full term.
Ultimately, though, they couldn't. And it dawned on Tara and Luke that they would need both an egg donor and a surrogate if there were any chance of having babies. You'd reach your wit's end at that point.
Yeah, I was at breaking point. Yeah. I was tired.
In Australia, you cannot pay for a surrogate or an egg donor. So Tara and Luke initially looked at options overseas, where commercial arrangements are legal. But travel restrictions and a depleted bank account put that out of reach. As it turned out, their answer was much closer to home.
It's a kicker. Yeah, it is. Our next hockey players, eh? They're so cute.
Tara's older sister Renee generously offered to donate her eggs.
Oh, that's the nostrils.
Yeah, nostrils.
And the lips. Oh, look, big lip.
And carry not just one child, but twin girls.
Shouldn't one be like Renee and then Cherie?
No, we've already decided, you know, being the parents.
You got no say.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, they're tiny.
Tiny.
What was it like when you first saw them?
I didn't even know what I was looking at when I saw it. But when Tara and Renee saw it, yeah, they knew we were having twins straight away.
And it must have been pretty special for you too, Renee.
Yeah, I was like, oh, twins, yay. No, of course I was going to do it. I'm happy I can give them the two girls that they deserve. Can you hear them?
Yes.
Are they kicking?
Yes.
Already a mum to 3 beautiful girls, Renee willingly knew what she was taking on. It was a commitment gratefully received, but also one Tara found bittersweet.
I didn't want to accept the offer, only because I wanted to give... Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, you need tissue?
Oh, thanks. I just wanted to give it everything I had before I gave up, sort of thing. Yeah.
Like, it breaks your heart because, you know, what can you do? You know, you can be there to support and give her cuddles, but at the end of the day, it's just like, yeah, you just want to take that pain away. I just wanted to give them what they need in their lives, what they're missing.
It's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah. What's 9 months of my life to give Luke and Tara a life full of happiness and something they've always longed for.
It's an act of generosity that's hard to match or measure. One sister giving another sister the gift of life. But getting to this point has not only been emotional, it's also been a legal minefield. The Northern Territory is an outlier when it comes to surrogacy legislation in Australia. It's the only state or territory where it's neither legal or illegal, meaning prospective parents can't enter any formal agreement. That's made an already painful situation even more difficult for Tara and Luke and others like them who are desperate to start a family.
So without surrogacy laws in the Northern Territory, they really have to go through an adoption process, and it will mean, at least initially, that Tara's sister will be on the birth certificate, so she will be the legal parent of those children.
Lawyer Sarah Jefford is a specialist in conception law, which differs from state to state. And while commercial arrangements are banned nationwide, that's where the consistency stops and the confusion begins, especially when it comes to surrogacy.
If you're in the ACT, your surrogate can be over 18. If you're in New South Wales, she must be over 25. In Victoria, a surrogate needs to have had her own child, but in Queensland, she doesn't need to have had her own child. I mean, just that as an example is how ridiculous the situation is that we cannot have any uniformity and nobody knows what they're doing state to state. And finding a surrogate or finding intended parents adds that extra complexity because the legislation is different everywhere.
It almost sounds quite prohibitive too.
It can be, yes. It's less prohibitive perhaps overseas than it is here on home soil.
Of the estimated 350 Australian babies carried by surrogates each year, only about 100 are born here, with intended parents much more likely to head overseas to countries where commercial surrogacy is legal. But at the moment, overseas surrogacy really isn't an option.
COVID and travel restrictions has really changed the landscape, not just for restricting travel, but also finding a surrogate overseas is less likely because of everything that's happening in those countries with COVID.
Why would you bother?
That's a good question. I think there's something that we might call baby lust. I don't think the baby lust goes away just because it becomes more complex or more challenging. I think people are so desperate to grow their families that some people will go to the ends of the earth to make that happen.
Oh, that's so cute.
It's that baby lust that has kept Tara fighting to become a mum. But the red tape has not made it easy. As if her path to motherhood wasn't tough enough already, Tara will be in legal limbo until a lengthy adoption process is complete.
Yeah, that is cute.
Oh, the girls will love that. Just trying to do the simple things like enrolling them to daycare, I will not legally be allowed to do because I won't be classed as their mum.
So you'll be considered
The stepmom.
the stepmother
Yeah.
of your own children.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It is tough because I know that in my heart I'm their mum. My sister knows. My husband knows. Our children will know. It's just, it won't be classed as that.
Despite all that, though, you think this is still worth it?
100%. I'd do it again. Oh, my sister probably wouldn't.
Bye-bye.
3 weeks ago, Renee finally made their dream a reality, giving birth to 2 gorgeous girls, Kyla and Kendall. After more than a decade of roadblocks, Tara and Luke are basking in that new parent glow, proudly holding their newborn babies in their arms. Not everyone going through an experience like you would have someone like Renee in their life willing to take on such a commitment.
I've had it a lot easier than a lot of women out there. And for them to have to go through their own fertility issues and then be in the unknown of what they can do next to complete their family or even start a family is devastating.
Certainly there's a lack of egg donors in Australia. I think a better option perhaps would be having a regulated egg bank rather than having to pay for egg or sperm coming from overseas. Can you count the green ones as well? 1.
As a conception lawyer, mother of 2, Sarah Jefford knows how tough it is for people desperate to start a family.
Come on then.
That's why she's not only donated her eggs, but has been a surrogate too. For her, it's an easy way to help others enter parenthood. So you're a mother.
Yes.
You've been a surrogate and an egg donor.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
What are you, superhuman?
Well, honestly, I've had some pretty superhuman experiences, but I think I'm just human and I'm the lucky one here. I get to do this and experience this and know that I created life.
While it's certainly not for everyone, it is an act of generosity that single mother Emma hopes will come her way. In the month since she's posted flyers around suburban Sydney seeking an egg donor, she's received 7 responses, but all have fallen through. Her desperate mission highlights the limited options we have in Australia to help those struggling to grow a family.
What are we going to find today?
How much would it change your world to receive a donor egg?
It would make a huge difference to my life and to my son's life. And it would be the most amazing gift if someone would offer to help me create that little sibling for him.
Have you reached a point where you could accept the possibility of this just not happening for you?
No. No, this is not over yet.
You're in for the long haul.
Yeah, I may get to that point, you know. But at the moment, it's a straw that I'm clutching and I'm not prepared to let it go just yet. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.